Mm. So yeah, it's in 10. I think we can just go full into the competition. We have a reasonable number of people. I think we can start, and whoever misses it can just watch the recording after. So let's start with the elephant in the room, Metamask. So Gil, can you can you give an overview, just a very brief overview? I think most of us know about MetaMask, at least the wallet at least. Then of course portfolio and probably other like um, products
Sure.
in the suite, right? So can you just give a brief overview of MetaMask,
Mhm.
the product suite, and its role in the whole Web3 ecosystem,
Sure.
as well as the goal? Yeah, thank you.
So MetaMask is part of the company known now as Consensus. So not everybody knows that MetaMask is not its own company, but it's also part of another group of products. So we so MetaMask itself is a wallet. So as probably most of you know, this is how you can interact on the Ethereum blockchain, and we are probably the most popular wallet out there, at least the one that is the most used. As for myself, I work on our portfolio offering, which is our offering that allows you to see your full suite of assets that you own. Because sometimes, the extension it's a bit small to see things. We also have a mobile wallet, which you can download on Android and iPhone. And our parent company, Consensus, is also behind the layer two called Linea, which is basically a network that helps scale Ethereum a little bit. And we also have a lot of products like we have DeFi, we have institutional consulting. So we do a lot. So we're one of the bigger companies in the industry, but we try to more and more to decentralize everything that we do. And yes, so most people know us for MetaMask, but we also do a lot of other things.
Awesome. Um, thanks for the primer. So I'll just dive into a couple of questions that you're already getting. I compiled a few myself, but I'm beginning to get a couple of them, interesting ones. Um, so first question that I can have here is about balancing speed and decentralization, right? So the question, according to how it's written here, says, how does MetaMask prioritize delivering fast UI, that is the experience, and maintaining decentralization principles in its applications?
So that's always a question that is hard to pinpoint directly because it's always about getting a balance. A lot of people, we have millions of users. So a lot of times when we change something, we need to think of how is this going to impact the security of people? How do we make sure that we do something that is going to play well with all of the industry? So to maintain decentralization, a lot of the time what we will do is that we'll talk with the other wallets. So, there's other wallets like Phantom, for example. We are in constant conversation with a lot of the industry, and we try to, make sure that when we propose a standard, that we just don't roll out the feature, on our own software, but we try to work with other companies to align, at least to align the other wallets and to align with them also on what they're doing to make sure that it's not only one person driving the show. Obviously, sometimes there are challenges. So when you want to do something fast, right? When you want to have the wallet be fast, we are one of the oldest wallets. So we're trying to make sure also that we keep our existing users, safe and that we don't break things. So sometimes we're trying to balance. We're trying to make things, quick performance, but we're also making sure we have a lot of tests, we have a lot of security researchers, and we have a lot even of coding libraries, which we use specifically to isolate the wallet from potential risk, from potential hacking. But of course, this is Web3. There's a lot of malicious actors. We cannot be perfect, but that's how we try to keep a balance by talking with a lot with people, making sure that everything is stays as stable as we can.
Awesome. All right. So I'm looking for how to. Okay, I can see we have an and. What do you think would make sense? Do we just allow questions as they come, or we have like a Q&A session at the end?
Yeah, I think we could maybe for each topic, we could maybe allow for one or two questions just to keep the conversation rolling, but we could keep an open floor. What do you think?
Okay, so I think let's just allow questions now and see how it goes. So from there we can make an informed decision. So yeah, Musa Dulua, you
Yeah,
raised and as well as Zakir, so you can just speak.
yeah, awesome. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you to I don't want to murder his name, but to our guest, thank you. So I just wanted to piggyback on what you said just now about it sounds to me like it's a trade-off, right? Security and then efficiency in such a way like that. So I'm just thinking for I enjoy MetaMask. Just for disclaimer, I enjoy using MetaMask, and I think one of the reasons why I enjoy using MetaMask is because of the credibility that they've had over the years, right? It is not the fastest wallet out there. So I just wanted to ask that, okay, how can you reach that consensus? How can you reach that conclusion whereby you have speed and then you still have that security and the end? Because for Phantom as well, Phantom is not the fastest what's it called? It's not the fastest wallet out there. I have Rainbow installed. I don't use it all the time, but then it's one of the fastest. It's one of the fastest. So I'm just looking at the way to that there won't be a compromise, but then we can still achieve both on MetaMask. Is there a way for that to happen?
Um, just to be precise, I'm not part of the actual extension team, but I'll try still to provide an answer to that. So I think also some of it comes to when you have a code base, MetaMask itself is an open source project that's been a while for a long time. Um, so obviously we created the project, the wallet, and we have been building it for a lot of years, right? So like we have been carrying over this code that we keep improving and that we keep delivering features on. So the trade-off that is hard to achieve, both, like quick performance and quick security and the trust that you mentioned that people have in us, it's hard because if you strive too much in one way, let's say we would strive to rewrite everything from scratch with the latest technology, then we would be losing a lot of this trust because all of the stability that you have in the wallet, you would have people coming and having bugs, potentially losing money. So this is always the trade-off that is hard to reach perfectly. So it's kind of a swing, like for maybe 3 months, you focus on performance. You try to focus on making sure your code is getting better. You adapt to more modern standards and you upgrade libraries. But the other 3 months after, you go back and now you build new features. So for example, something like multi-network, or let's say you redesign like the way you view assets. If you want to do something like this, you will have to break a few things, but then you have to restabilize. So it's always a swing, right? So reaching that perfect goal of having an app that is both stable, fast, and pushes a lot of new features, it's all about compromise. So I'm not sure if I answered your question well, but essentially it is possible to get there, but you also always take risk of breaking things. When the fastest you push, the fastest, the more things are going to break pretty much.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that. I get you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So moving along quickly, Zacchaeus,
All
what's there
right.
to say?
All right, no problem. So I really wanted to ask this question because I'm also a very big user of MetaMask. I really wanted to ask these questions like, why aren't you guys supporting like other chains like Tron? You know that Tron is also very EVM compatible, and they also I will be I perfectly understand why you wouldn't want to support Solana because that's like an entirely different thing. You guys probably have like your code is probably written in a way that is very compatible with EVM, but then we all know that Tron is very EVM compatible, and then we know that at least I know that like Tron Link, which is their wallet extension, is one of the most complicated and the most hardest thing to use. Like it lacks a lot of functionality, and then we know that when it comes to wallet extensions, MetaMask is like the go-to area. So it will really do a lot of us, especially devs, a lot of like good things if we can have, Tron at least. Because we know that in Africa that we are in, a lot of users here use TRC20 like for some reason, I don't really understand why, but then a lot of them use RS20 for some reason. And then, we want to build like stuffs for them, and then we want to be able to like test things, do things around and all that. So like, why aren't you guys supporting Tron? Like, I'm really concerned.
Let me just specify, are we not supporting adding Tron, or is it not in the list of default networks? Because we are out of the gate compatible with any EVM wallet, and any dApps could trigger an action for you to add that chain onto your MetaMask, and the user would have to approve. But we also have a list of default chains, which we try to review every quarter to make sure it reflects, like the top 20 or so. So which one is it? Like, is it that as a dApp developer, you're not able to get people to install Tron, like to have MetaMask support Tron, or is it that it's not in our list of default?
Yeah, it's not in the list of default, and also I don't think it can be added to MetaMask at all. Like, because like I really don't know why, but then I don't think I'm added to MetaMask. I think all available chains has to be an OX, chain, all those OX stuff and all that. Apart from that, and then Tron is also an OX, but then they like convert the exact decimal address into a base 58 address, which we all use, on Tron, whatever. So I don't think the must support that. And then I think to really like make all of us devs happy, if you can just have like one wallet that we can just use to like develop stuff. Because right now on my browser, I have like almost like 5 different wallet extensions I have to be switching over whenever I'm developing. Because like the dApp that we are all working on is accept different channel and all that. And MetaMask actually like supports a lot of them, but it would like really do us devs a very big help if we can have one wallet that has all those things at once.
No, I feel you. And honestly, this is something that we try to address. Like, a lot of people often come with specific chains that have a tiny difference, and somehow, we cannot support all the tiny differences. So I'm not going to answer specifically to Tron, but the way we address this is by releasing what we call the Snaps platform. So a Snap, a Snap is essentially an extension of MetaMask. So you can build your own extension within a secured environment within the wallet. And this has allowed us to, we've seen people building snaps that allow supporting Solana, even some people, meaning that now MetaMask can also support Bitcoin, but it has to be something that the user installs. Maybe it's not exactly what you're looking for. It's not native support, but we are also, trying to make sure that everybody can build on MetaMask. And if we had to, pick what blockchain is a bit different, that is not like fully EVM by the book, we couldn't integrate all of them. So that's probably why we don't have the exact, chain that you're mentioning. But so far, we've seen a lot of success with people integrating into MetaMask snaps with a lot of like super different kind of blockchain architectures. So I'm pretty sure it could be done. And I could put you in touch with the developer relations person for snaps if you want. I could like give you his DMs, and you can chat to see if there's something like in an effort going around there. I would love to open the door for you if that can help.
All right. Thank you very much. I would appreciate that. Maybe I can reach out to you through the organizer and then
Of course.
get that done. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you very much, Mr. Lulua and Sanchez, for your questions. Moving to the next discussion topic I had in mind, relating to the topic here, right? But let's now talk like decentralization, because one of the core like ethos of Web3 is like decentralization. Now let's talk about MetaMask and its stack. Where does decentralization come in? Like, where exactly does decentralization come in the MetaMask stack? Yeah.
Yes. So one thing that we, as a company, we try to do is that we try to be the one place for Ethereum, but we also try to bring back to the public everything that we do. So first of all, we are open source. So the MetaMask extension is code that you can open yourself, and you can go and edit, and you can go and ask for modifications. You can go and try to create your own features inside it. But we also have what we call permissionless innovation. And this is the Snaps platform that I just talked about before. This allows a lot of people that are not from the team to create their own applets within MetaMask. So decentralization, it's important because even though we're a regular company with regular bottom line, we still believe that the full ecosystem benefits from everybody winning. Like we don't believe that like one company being the biggest wallet is going to serve the ecosystem. So we try to make sure that everybody can build on top of us. So decentralization is something that it's hard to always do perfectly. But the reason why I propose this idea of sufficiently decentralized is that as long as you do your best effort, as long as you do like a real effort to be open towards the community and to work with open source code, there's a lot you can do. So for us, it's still key. Even in internal meetings, we have a lot of ideas of how we can do something in partnership with other people and open source things. So for us, even though we could build everything internally and just keep it for ourselves and just say, have users use it, everything we do, we keep in mind, is it secure? And is it going to benefit the global ecosystem to make sure, we don't centralize the knowledge and the power of one wallet being too big for the ecosystem? I'm not sure if that answered. I tried to touch on a lot of topics, sorry.
So to be more specific, now you mentioned that we don't, probably most of us know that your code is open source. So for devs that are looking to add or edit or make any like modifications to the code base, can you just give a description of like the process, like the workflow? How does this work?
Yes. So the first part of that would be that we have our contributor guidelines in the GitHub repository of the extension. And this one is extensive. There's examples of our coding style. So you should start by reading that. There's how to test your code. There's how to report your feature. There's how to write a description of your pull request. So every detail that is part of our developer process, we've labeled it, and we continue to update that specific part. So once you've read that, the second step would be to go and, if there's something you want to fix, honestly, try fixing it. So like if there's something that you want to take like a shot at it and you think you could make it, there's nothing blocking anybody from like creating a piece of code and submitting it to us, and we would review it. But if you don't have ideas, there's also the issues tab on GitHub. The issues tab is anything. Oh. Sorry.
Sorry. Go on.
Yeah. The issues tab would be where people list out problems that they would have with the wallet or improvements that they would like to do. So you could find within those lists of things, some things you'd like to change or to fix yourself if you don't have ideas. And yeah, I think that's the best way to get started if you want to contribute to MetaMask.
Okay, so I guess that's some of the things, some of the resources that you would have to share with us after this chat. That's the contributor guidelines, right? So yeah, I think I saw a couple of hands that were raised while you were speaking. Right. So okay, the first person I noticed was Zacchaeus. But let's have, since Zacchaeus has spoken already before, let's have Adejare Marvel. Yeah, you can just unmute yourself and speak. Marvel, you have the floor, you can speak.
If you're speaking, you're currently muted.
All right, so okay, let's just move to the next person. Zacchaeus, I saw at some point that you raised your hand.
Oh, sorry, that was a mistake. That was a mistake.
All right, so Musadulua, you're the last person I noticed.
I wanted to ask our guest today to just talk a little bit about I think it's over now because Consensus won the lawsuits against SEC. So I just wanted to
The SEC. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted you to like
Oh,
give like
the lawsuit. Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to give like a brief overview of that because I know that US politics is definitely different from what we see here. Although it impacts us, because when I saw the news, I'm like, whoa. I enjoy decentralization and I use MetaMask. So whatever is going on there, one way or the other, it affects me here. So I was trying to dig into the news and all of that. But recently I saw that, okay, it has cooled down a little bit. So just wanted you to touch on it a little bit and just share your insights on what you think about it.
Yeah, sure. That's actually a great example of why we took an action and we did it we did it with the benefit of the whole ecosystem in mind. So in the US, just for context, when you trade stocks or you trade, like something on the stock exchange, this is called a securities. And the securities has a bunch of rules that require you to register yourself and emit specific documents. And it's a lot of really strict rules. And so this is centralized because basically the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, directs those rules and decides that what are the rules on it, who can trade them, and who is allowed to sell stocks. Ethereum was born in a completely different idea. Ethereum was born that nobody could control its currency and that we would be able to send it to each other quickly. So the SEC was investigating companies, selling, especially exchanges like Binance. They were investigating them to see if they were in selling Ethereum, if this was a security. And the small language matters a lot because then it would mean that nobody in the US has access to just selling Ethereum and like buying Ethereum. Like it would become a government regulated problem at this point. Which for us, we thought if this happens in the US, the world is going to follow suit because half of the stock exchange regulation are copied after the US generally. Well, not half, but like a big portion, like a lot of the world looks at the SEC for guidance. So we thought we would sue the SEC. So we sent a lawsuit trying to ask for clarification from the courts. And it's actually still on, but what happened recently is that there was a ruling by the SEC that they stopped their investigation. So they declared that they would not investigate a bunch of companies. They notified those companies saying that they don't think Ethereum is regulatable on their end. But we want them to go one step further. We want them to say it's not a security so that the ecosystem can continue to evolve and can continue to be in the hands of everybody. Because if the SEC says we are going to accaparate and this is a security, then we're centralizing again the rules. So I hope that was a lot of context. So I hope it answered your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we've talked about decentralization, which is a major part of our discussion today. Now let's talk about privacy, right? Like, how private is MetaMask really? Like, what personal information do you collect from your users, if at all you collect any personal information? How do you use the information that you collect? How do you use the information you collect? Who do you share this personal information with? Because at least I know there are a couple of third-party integrations with MetaMask, I think about MoonPay and stuff that would require you to provide some personal details, bank information, and all sorts. So how private is MetaMask really? When I mean by how private, that's where what personal information do you collect? How do you use it to share from? And then from these third-party integrations, how do you ensure that users, how do you protect your users and make sure that indeed their information that they do not want out there doesn't actually go?
For sure. So I think when we think of the privacy in MetaMask, there's a lot of products under MetaMask. We have a buy feature, so you can actually buy crypto directly from one of our partners. We have also swaps features. So the only place where we do need information is on the actual buy and sell feature, because these features require us to comply with government guidelines all over the world. So we don't offer those features in every country because some countries have also more regulations. So these are the only, and this is not shared with the rest of the campaign. So when you are buying on MetaMask, me as a portfolio developer, I have zero access to this. It's in a locked database used by the actual integrators. And we don't have, we cannot go, nobody in the company can go and touch the production database for those. when we create those features, we create them in a mocked environment, like in an isolated environment that is not the real world, so that we don't touch the real user data. And as for the rest, you don't need to. So as for the rest, most tech companies will have analytics. So in analytics, what we do is that we try to understand if a feature is popular or not, but we never collect a wallet address in any of those. So let's say, for example, you go on the portfolio and you want to manage your allowances, or you want to manage your DeFi positions. This is not something that we don't even have a clue what wallet it's happening in. And there's even also a way, and we also opt out users by default. So when users, when you start, you are not even into those analytics by default. And this is in our privacy policy, which has just been re-released to be made more clear and to make sure that we're as private as possible for users. So all the measures that we take is that in the end, for us, we don't make money on the data of what you do. Like Metamask doesn't do money from you sending Ethereum. Like the place where instead, so for us, there's no value in that data other than just how can we grow as a company to satisfy more our users. And even then we block anything. So we don't even know what users do what. We just know, is this more popular? Are people going more there? And even then you can opt out of this. So all this to say that we are pretty aggressive in trying to maintain that. Of course, if you need to deal with support, you'll need to identify yourself, like this is always on a voluntary basis. If you have an issue with the product and let's say you use one of our services, of course you need to log in onto our system and you need to create a support ticket, but that is when you're willingly engaging with the company. I hope that answered. I think there's a few questions also.
Exactly. So just you have the floor.
Yeah. So my question is basically about your buy feature on MetaMask, because I've seen it and I've tried to use it for a while. But then the issue has always been that it doesn't support local currency in Nigeria, for instance, and most African countries. So what's your plan towards that, or is there a barrier? And are you guys looking to make a partnership with maybe a Nigerian provider that can provide such services to you? And also, what are the steps if you are to do such partnership? And is it also in an isolated environment, like you explained, with other provider? Just I want to know all of that.
So I'll do my best, but I'm a bit far from that team. So I'll do my best to tell you what I've seen in the past. So I know we're fully aware that we're not present in Africa enough. And we've actually highlighted Nigeria as one of the top markets. We'd like to be more present and we'd like to be more engaged. Thanks to the wonderful community you have, Unilag and all over Lagos and all over the country. So as for the process, to give you an example, I know we launched in India around a year ago, and the whole process, the way we work normally is that we try to make sure we're within the law of the country. So for us, often we like to partner with people, but I cannot give you the clear steps we do because I'm frank. First of all, I'm not involved in the team, and I'm sure that team wants to protect their methods just to be sure, that they can vet people properly and nobody takes advantage of the process. But generally, what we do always for any third party is that we'll do a full security audit of the third party. We'll make sure that they respect our values and the values of our customers. And generally, where my team comes in, especially, somebody said in the chat there are partners for buying on MetaMask. I was not aware, but that's nice to know. But generally, the isolated environment that you mentioned is that when we build something, myself, I cannot teleport myself in Nigeria or in India when I'm creating a feature. So essentially, we ask all of our third parties to, when we integrate with them, to have what we call a QA, a quality analysis, a quality assurance environment. this is like more a coding concept, but consider it just a test environment where we could do anything, we can break things, but this is not real money, this is not real data going on. It's just for us, the devs, building something. Yeah, that's how I would try to answer your question.
All right, no problem then. Thank you.
Okay, so next discussion point is something you probably hear in almost every discussion, that like any Web2 discussion, any AMA, and that's I don't think there's any Web2 discussion without talking about interoperability with Web2. Like if you're building anything, I think you should be thinking about also how you're going to reach to the Web2 market, like Web2 native market. So yes, let's talk about Web2 interoperability over MetaMask. How do you make sure that people that are not so Web3 native, and how do you first, let's start from how do you onboard like Web2 users to using your product, MetaMask?
That's my personal favorite concept in Web3, bringing us to the next billion people. And my own personal approach to this is starting with a great user experience. I always try to make sure, and that's why I joined the portfolio team, because there I had a lot more freedom to implement nice UI and nice user interfaces. As for MetaMask, the way we want to onboard people is to bridge the gap in knowledge and usability. So obviously, for a lot of people coming from Web2, they're used to, let's say over in the US and Canada, we're used to bank accounts. A lot of other countries are going to send money via their phone providers, or, like in China, they have like one app for everything. So we need to bridge the knowledge gap from all over the world. So we created something called MetaMask Learn. So these are a series of small tutorials that we link throughout the application a little bit left and right. So they're video tutorials and written tutorials. This way you can actually go and learn, specific topics. We also tried, this is something we launched first, a pilot in the US. So it is a really US-centric feature that I'd like to see bring to more countries. But for tax season, because the taxman always comes for their money, we partnered with tax accounting softwares, so to help our users do their taxes more easily, their crypto taxes. So we always try to think of how can we make everything easier to use. And the biggest battlefield of usability is in the portfolio. So the wallet, the extension itself, there's limited real estate because it's an extension, it's smaller. So we're integrating more and more with the portfolio, which is our full screen application. And in there, we even recently launched a way to connect to your Binance account and see your balances. So we try to do a lot of different ways to simplify the user experience. But the thing is that it's a long run battle. Like it's a battle that we'll fight constantly, because the more and more people come in, the more and more we'll realize that they come from a different background, and there's going to be a blocker that is different from every country's every user. So I would say for us, it's always we do a lot of user research also. So we try to tell them, okay, we pick people, we basically hire them, and we make sure they don't know anything about crypto. We ask them questions. Is this confusing to you? Is this complicated to use, or you lost? Where would you find that button? So it's a constant battle. But for us, we approach it by constantly fighting it. Just trying to make sure that we're always improving user experience and always helping users learn.
Okay, that's that. Let me go to the next discussion point. So I like the flow of this conversation, right? Because I think we've touched the two main parts, not even intentionally, touched the two main parts of the blockchain trilemma. We talked about decentralization, we talked about privacy, and let's go to security. Let's talk about how secure is it to use MetaMask. How do you ensure that users are safe? How do you ensure that they're safe from phishing attacks, DDoS attacks, and all that stuff?
That's a multi-layered answer that I'm gonna have to give you. So the phishing attacks, you probably saw our Twitter, were massively targeted, being the most popular wallet. So what I would say is never go outside of official MetaMask channels for anything related. Never DM anybody, on X, Twitter, on Discord. Always go directly to our website and look for the real MetaMask URL. So this is something that is hard. Phishing is the hardest to fight. So we try to fight it with education, because sadly, people are going to get tricked. There's money involved. So a lot of people are going to be targeted. So what we do for us is that we try to have from within the application a zero loss policy. So we try that within the application to make everything we can to minimize the loss as much as possible in every topic. But we cannot control the third parties. That's the problem. Like if somebody asks you for your seed phrase or asks you to sign a transaction, this is something that we try to create a lot of education, including on MetaMask Learn. But this one is always the uphill battle. It's always super difficult. As for on the technology side, we have a really cool piece of technology. This is really technical, so I'm going to try to sum it as best as I can. But we created something called Lava Moat, which is a way that the code in the extension is isolated from the exterior. And this is fantastic because most of the attacks in blockchain or supply chain attacks, or on the tech side. I'm not talking about on the human side, where people do social engineering and phishing. So a lot of these attacks would, let's say, come in from a coding library that somebody injects malicious code in it. We use Lava Mode to essentially lock the application and the dependencies into one specific version, and we are really granular on when we update everything, change anything in our code. We're really granular with it. So that's one piece of technology we built, and we try to build everything on a permission model. So in the code, whenever somebody builds a snap, the app platform I mentioned before, that the snap needs to request the permission of the user. So the user, if you're sharing your keys, if you're sharing approval, delegation power, for example, everything must be pre-approved by the user. And we try to make it on a need-to-know basis. So for example, we never set out permissions in MetaMask to be too wide quickly. We want to make sure that only when the user needs to give permission, it does give the permission. So we try to keep the user in control. But yeah, security is a constant challenge. And I just want to really use the audience today to really say, don't engage only with the most official channels you can. Be careful everywhere in Web3. That's the biggest message I'd like to convey today.
All right. That's been answered. Now let's talk more about MetaMask portfolio, which is actually what. Okay, yeah, I almost forgot the audience. Oh, my bad. We have some raised hands. We have Zacchaeus and Emeka. So let's start with Emeka. Unmute yourself and ask your questions.
Okay, a quick one. As a newbie, I want to really ask. We were told during one of the conference that the way you actually secure your passcode and all of that is very important, so that you don't get to lose your wallet. So now I want to ask, what is the best way to secure those things? Because sometimes I have to save them on my email, and I don't know, is that the best way to save your recovery phase?
This is hard. So I would say always keep in mind. There is a saying I like. I'm trying to remember it. Don't trust, verify. So that's something, you shouldn't give your trust openly. So giving your trust to an email, verify if that email is shared with third party. But essentially, I would say to store in your email is probably not the right approach. I would say, for me, the simplest of technologies is the best. I like to keep my seed on paper. So I like to keep my seed on paper, stored in a place where I won't say publicly, just because I keep my security seriously. But I would say there's also a lot of things you can do. Like if you have your funds in MetaMask, also move your holding funds. Like if you have like one ETH, move 90% of that ETH to another wallet that is not connected to the internet. So a lot of securities like this, never keep too much money in your main wallet. Keep your seed phrase hidden and don't share it trivially with friends. For example, like, oh, I keep my seed phrase at the bank, or I keep it under my mattress. Or even there are multi-signature wallets. This is a bit more advanced, but I would say as the amount of money you have in your wallet grows, double your security. So each time you double your funds, double your security. So the more and more you have, like the more conscious you become about your security. So that's one of my best advice to you, and probably get it off your email. Especially if it's in an email, like something like Gmail or like a big company that is known for selling information to third parties and ads. I would be worried about this.
Yeah, so get that secret off your email. All right, so I had I had a couple of other people raise their hands. Zacchaeus, you still have your hands up.
Alright.
I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah. I wanted to add to what he said. A way that can help, prevent all this scam and all that. Apart from your seed phrase, another very, very important thing, because a lot of people that are getting started in Web3 are probably going to get started with like airdrops and stuff like that. So you need to be very cautious about connecting your wallet. Like, I cannot emphasize this enough. Let me give an example. One of my friend, not even my friends, someone introduced him to me. So the guy wallet was like, not really app sharp, but like he connected to a website, right? And then they were able to like use approvals to like swap up all the coins and all that. And whenever you like send new coins to it, and then the dev has a way to always like move all your funds out, no matter what you do. So right now is a particular chain is doing like an airdrop. So I don't know how the dev knows or how the hackers know. They just find a way to like even claim airdrops on their wallet. So like the guy like constantly lose money every now and then. So I would advise that you have like two wallets, one where you save your funds, and then another wallet that like you can use to like claim out your airdrop and stuff like that. And whenever you like claim your airdrop and whatever, send the funds out to your main saving wallet. So like that's like general advice, and then it sounds like obviously and all that, but then this simple little mistake, can really make you lose like all your funds. So have a wallet where you save your stuff, and then have a wallet that can use to interact with like any site that you want to. So that aside, what I actually wanted to like talk about, I've actually forgotten it already. So let's just go on with the conversation.
and I will still have somebody's hands up, so I think we need to take that before we go ahead. That was Emmanuel. I'm all.
Hey, hi everyone. Concerning this issue of saving your seed phrase,
Oh, I think Manuel Amo is maybe having internet issues.
I think so too. So if I saw the comment about the airdrop, quite hilarious.
I have one thing to say on the airdrop. On Portfolio, we have an explore section where you can connect your wallet and you can see which airdrop you're eligible to. So we've partnered with a third party where if you connect your wallet, they will scan their database of airdrops and they will see if you're eligible for airdrops. Not from MetaMask, they're not MetaMask airdrops. But I think it's a neat little feature to check, check every day, check your portfolio and your airdrops, and maybe you'll get one day one from MetaMask. But I cannot confirm or infirm any of that.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, because like I think apparently we have just over 5 minutes on this call as slated, but I think we might have to appeal to everyone to stay with us for a bit more, give us more of your time. So yeah, still talking about portfolio. Now let's talk about still talking about like the UI, whole UI user experience. How do you combine usability, right? User usability with like um comprehensive portfolio management tools across different chains. Like how do you make sure that you provide as much information as possible about their portfolio, but at the same time it's not overwhelming, it's completely usable.
Yes, so that's one of the challenges that we deal with the coding side in Web3 is that a lot of things happen on the user's browser. So in Web 2, companies have their own central servers where they can put a lot of information to you before it reaches your browser. This normally makes for a seamless, a great experience. But in Web3, to respect the right of everybody, to use their dApps on their own browsers without sending information to a third-party server. So I'm bringing up this challenge because it's always something we need to keep in mind that the more info we put on a screen, the more work your browser and your internet connection is going to have to do to fetch prices, to fetch the image of a token, to fetch the image of the NFT. So for us, it's something that we are trying to improve right now. We're trying to make sure, we keep that in mind because a lot of Web3 has been US and Europe focused, like centric. Like a lot of the devs will build and say, it's fast on my machine, but the image comes from a data center from New York when you're in Florida, which is like a few hours away. So we're trying to keep in mind all of our users everywhere. So myself, let's say when I build a feature and I build something for the portfolio, I will teleport my browser location to be, for example, in Lagos or for example, in Vietnam, where I will try to see if it takes a lot of time to load. So this was really technical, but all that I'm trying to say is that the amount of information that we put on screen, some power users want to see everything, but other users will be overwhelmed. So we try to give you customization approaches where you can hide some of your tokens, or you can, we put, for example, the DeFi screen a bit hidden where it's quickly accessible by anybody. But if you're just coming in and you're just happy to buy 1 or 2 NFTs and you're holding Ethereum for a while before doing anything, you maybe don't want to touch that DeFi right away, right? You maybe just want to learn what it is before. So for us, it's a matter of making sure everything is accessible, but your home screen doesn't have too much, but you can still find it if you're looking for it. Yeah, sorry, I went from technical to then user experience, but I think both play neatly together, right? You cannot have, if your app never loads, but it's beautiful, it's useless. So that's why I think you need to think of both at the same time.
All right, so bringing this to a close, I have one question. It's a personal question for me because I'm currently like affiliated with an Oracle service, so I'm always concerned with like interoperability. So I wanted to ask, for the portfolio app, how do you fetch um, price feeds for these assets? Is there a third party integration, say an Oracle or a premium API service provider? How do you fetch your prices?
No, that's all in-house actually. We have our own data team which fetches the prices, and we build our own API so that when you are interacting with portfolio, it's all our data. It's not something, so this way, when we fetch, let's say you have, I'm trying to think of a token. You have USDC in your portfolio. We will be fetching the amount of the prices of the tokens separately, and then we'll do the calculations on your own machine for how much you have. So let's say you have, well, USDC is a bad example because it's always $1, but let's say you have a token that's worth $10 and you have 1.5 of that token. We'll just fetch the price on our own things, on our own servers, and the calculation will be done locally on your own computer, like on your own browser. So this is not information, that we keep. And we, for integrations, for hate that word, interoperability.
Mm-hmm.
We basically go by the top usage. So we go by the top 20 tokens, and we add top 20 chains, and we add more and more as each quarter we try to keep expanding our list. But basically we go by the most users we know are on which chain and the most value on which chain. But this is all done by our data team inside to decide what we'll do next. Yeah, that's pretty much how I could answer your question.
Okay, so as a follow-up, you mentioned that you have your own servers that fetch this data and process it. Now, I have a concern about single point of failure, because I personally, as Metamask is the primary wallet I use, right? But then there's this case of that happens more often than I would like it to happen, where my for some tokens I hold, this unable to load balance. And now I am beginning to attribute that to the fact that there is a single server. Yeah. So now, how do you?
No, there's 40
you
servers.
cannot. There's 40 servers. Okay. So, but generally, how do you mitigate making sure there's no single point of failure? Yeah.
Yes.
With
So
this
we run on
service.
scalable infrastructure. So our infrastructure can scale up or down. So we have, we can always make our databases bigger. We can always make our servers bigger or connect more to it. This is all done automatically. So we have a world-class development operations team. When things are not loading, just know we're working exactly on that issue. So I cannot give you specific details yet, but this is one of the top issues one of my colleagues is working on. And we've heard that feedback, so we're gonna release improvements fairly soon on that.
Awesome. So it's a problem that I experience using Metamask. So hopefully that gets resolved as soon as possible. Any questions or additions from the house about this?
Well, actually, do you think that MetaMask token detection is pretty slick for me though? Because whenever I have a new token, it just detect the entire thing, except on testnet, which I understand, But then for mainnet, I think the whole thing just works fine.
I did not hear the beginning. Are you referring to when users, you prompt them to add a token to their wallet? Is that what you're referring?
No. I mean, when I receive a token on the wallet that I have on my MetaMask. Yeah.
Oh, how often we refresh that, right?
Yeah. How often do you refresh that? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so Consensus, the company behind MetaMask, also has the Infura product. So Infura is basically RPC nodes, which the wallet connects to directly. So we try to bump the number of confirmations enough so that we don't have a token that, let's say, appears but is reverted or similar. So I don't know how long exactly the extension does it. For us, I know that we try to keep it every couple of minutes so that it's fresh, but it's also not, changing often. Yeah, I could get back to you on that. But are the exact, updating of the token goes for the MetaMask wallet at least. But for portfolio, we do call our API for that. But for the extension, it's a tiny bit different. Everybody wants the airdrop.
So yeah, talking about RPC nodes, funny how I'm just realizing that okay, Infura is actually affiliated with MetaMask. So to enhance privacy, right? How much on a scale of 1 to 10 and why? How would you advise people to run their own nodes, or just use the default nodes that you provide?
So the way I would describe it is discover your own tolerance for privacy, and that helps you set a scale. If you care about privacy beyond everything, run your own node. And this is not to say that that MetaMask is not private or secure, but the best privacy is the one you control 100%. So this is always running your own node, puts you in control of everything. Obviously, so that if privacy is your biggest concern, you will be only better served by yourself than any other third party. So I would put MetaMask close. Yes, self-custody, and self-custody is big, and this is why we want to help everybody self-own their own crypto to get it out of centralized exchange. So at the most extreme, you have running your own node, and I advise you to do it if you're really serious about your privacy. At the other extreme, if you own 100% of your funds in a centralized exchange, I would say already running through MetaMask is already a much better improvement than, let's say, running for Binance or running on Coinbase. So you're already much more closer to that 10 on 10 privacy if you're running your things through MetaMask than if you're running on a centralized exchange, which is like a 1 or a 2 on 10. We're much more closer to the 7, 8. If the 10 is running your own node and being in cold storage all the time, that would be like, and you're like air gap your wallet. So obviously, like figure out where you sit on that scale and when you want to change that scale. Maybe you want to keep a spending wallet on MetaMask, but you keep all of your funds into like your paper wallet that you run with your own private node. But yeah, difficult topic to always answer.
All right, so we're like 6 minutes into viewers time, and I don't want to take any more so much time. So I'll ask people to ask their questions, and then we begin to round this up. So let's start with Michael. I think you're quite eager to speak.
Okay. Okay. So good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, Mike.
So my yeah. So my question is particular about there was a token I received from Entangle, right? And I don't know why I'm seeing a different price on MetaMask. I wanted to ask, so like the Entangle, I added the Entangle address, like I added the chain through. I did not see the chain directly, so I added the chain through like the address, token address, and all of that. So, but there was like a price, like the price on MetaMask was quite different from the price like on I think CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap. I don't know. Can you say anything regarding that? Like, is there usually a price difference on MetaMask and other maybe the prices on chats other than MetaMask?
So it can happen fairly often, like everybody tries to pull in different data sources for what the price of what is. I would say if the difference is in the double digits or more, it's something then we'd probably look into. But generally, a small difference is not going to be a huge concern. Just because when you do perform an exchange, maybe you see a small difference in your MetaMask, but if you do go on an exchange to do a swap or to put it in a DeFi protocol, that shouldn't matter as much. But I understand it's frustrating, so I'll try to take that feedback to the team and ask them if it's a known issue. But I do know that there's people even making a career of price discrepancies, buying in one place and selling in another. So maybe there's something to advantage. I'm only kidding here, but I'll try to bring it up to the team.
Okay,
All right,
thank
that's
you.
it.
So I had a couple of questions. I've got most of them. Okay, but then let me just go on with like asking a personal question there. So I've always wanted to know. Hey, yeah. First of all, yeah. So how would you advise because the other guy, Amzad asked a question about our PC nodes and all that. How would you advise I would advise a developer to like approach, getting RPC node services. Do you think, like for instance now, I as a developer, I know how hard it is to get like recent transaction on a particular wallet address. You would have to like pull, the Ethereum blockchain, or you do it through an RPC and all that, and then there are services like moralist that can allow you, abstract all of those things away by doing streams. Like, how do you advise, like a typical developer to approach such problems?
That's a fun question. So first of all, that us developers are often concerned with higher levels of abstraction. Like we're often removed from the RPC node and all of that until we start to focus more on it. So I would advise that you start to look into the DevOps aspect. You start to look at the systems administration aspect of um, working with cloud machines and developing because unless you want to buy your own hardware, this is like running an RPC node, for example, in the cloud versus you buying a computer and installing the software is a whole different game. So I would first research where you sit in that. And then I'm not a specialist, but I know there are a lot of people, like participating in pools to put their hardware. So I would just say, yeah, just get curious and just start hacking. But decide first if you want to go the software route with hosting in the cloud, or if you want to do your own hardware, and then start hacking on either of these. And by hacking, for the non-coding audience, I just mean toying away and like trying to make something happen.
Yeah.
I'm not meaning stealing funds.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's,
and also
that's how I would.
for all right,
Yeah,
cool.
go ahead.
For Metamax, also, like, do you guys have like, if you guys want to, like, say, onboard a developer, or employee developer and all that, like, what is generally the process? And apart from consensus as a company, what do you think the model is for Web3, developer, enrollment in the entire Web3 industry? Because I'm very sure we also have some developers in this particular in this call, and also, I also have some developers that I will train. So like, we also want us to know what the job opportunity is. Apart from the fact that we are all doing our own things, building stuff in Web3, trying to add things around. We also want to know if, like, we just want to know what the job opportunity is in this space. And there are also other Web2 developers that I know, and some that are on this call. They also want to know what the benefit is. Transitioning to Web3. Like, what are the benefits? I'm very sure almost all Web3 developers came from Web2 at one point, and then they probably saw like the benefit of Web3, and then they were just like moved and all that. So maybe you just want to like touch on that so that those that are
Sure.
on the score can get from that. All right.
So for us, our approach is that we are a global company. So we actually have even, if some of you saw the tweet we wrote in Lagos Pigden, we actually have somebody based in Lagos who works with us, who was gracious enough to help us craft something nice. So our approach to hiring is we hire the best people we can for the job. We do try to make sure it fits with where the team is. So for example, my team is a split between Asia, Europe, and the US. So we try to be mindful that somebody is going to be able to work hours where the team is online. So even though we're not, like specifically saying no to specific zones, some teams will want to hire only on the US West Coast. Others will hire typically on Lagos time, close to Portugal and in the UK. Like people congregate more. It's more around teams. And as the way we hire, we do. I mean, the problem is that we receive tons of CVs. So that's always the part where I'm always, sad, because I personally myself interview a lot of people. I've interviewed over 50 people for Metamask as the interviewer. And we pass a technical challenge, so as pretty much every other company. And then you are sent, if you pass the technical challenge, you are sent to interview with team members to discuss if you go well with the team, your culture, your problem-solving approach. And in the end, we come together and we just pick the candidate we felt we had the most fun, or that we felt fit the best with the team and the technical skills gap we need to fill. As for advantages, I think Web3 to me is still the only truly global tech industry. I think it's the only industry where I have friends from Sri Lanka, Singapore, Lagos, US, South America. So I've I work in a team where we're from 6 different countries, and I have friends from easily 10, 15 countries. When we all get together at a conference, seeing each other, there's people from all walks of life. So versus if you go to, let's say, the other technical industries, like AI is booming right now in San Francisco, but they only hire in office in San Francisco, a few cliques of people who are ex-Google, Microsoft, for example. So I would say the biggest benefit in Web3 is that people are having a lot of fun and they mean it. Like it's not a place where people come in for just the money and the experience. It's a place where people create communities for real. And I know a lot of devs who are non-traditional developers coming from under engineering backgrounds or even artistic backgrounds coming together. So trying to remember the last part of your question. So I would say, yeah, the benefit is that I really think you can make an impact. And also never forget that this is the job side, but few industries are as potent as Web3 on creating your own thing. There's so many hackathons, grants. I know a few people who launched DeFi protocols and they moved away in different countries, and they're not even, like I personally work for a big company, but I know a lot of friends who created their own thing. They have a small team of 5, 6 people, and they're successful and they make a lot of money. And they're helping the community grow, and they're helping, accelerate the adoption of the technology. So I think, yeah, I think it's one of the truly global tech industry, much more global than others. I hope AI is going to be that also soon, but I see a lot more gatekeeping in other industries. Yeah, so that's what I would say, just being a part of making a real change.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, and I hope that one day we can actually have like say a developer, stuff with you guys. Maybe just share some ideas that we have, with you guys, as we grow our developer stuff and all that. All right, thank you.
Of course, anytime. Reach out anytime you want. I can open the doors to DevRels or just chat together about the code, whatever you want.
I see someone else raise their hands. That was a good Tolwani. Yeah. You can unmute yourself and speak, Aguda.
Yeah, GM guys.
GM, we can hear you.
Yeah. Gui for coming up and taking us on this session. It's been very, very insightful. Really learned a lot from this. And also thank everyone for coming. Just one final question. I want you to give us starting steps because Pouch mentioned, Zach mentioned that we have people coming in from the Web2 space, and is there a roadmap for people coming from the Web2 devs entering Web3? And just give us a quick roadmap on that.
Yeah. Just letting you know, I think after this question, I'll have to go. But as for steps, I think first of all, realizing that Web3 is still the web is one of the biggest steps. Get your web development basics, HTML, JavaScript, CSS, get those in. It's hard to skip ahead to writing smart contracts. Unless you're really interested in specializing, I would say get your web development basics in. Because at the end, Web3 is still calling an API, still calling an SDK. So once you know the web lingo well, you're able to build user interfaces and you're able to create applications. I would try to go ahead and study the concepts of blockchain deeply. So I would try to start to understand, and I mean deeply, I don't mean opening the Bitcoin C++ code. I just mean, understanding the pooling of transactions together, getting the lingo in, making sure you understand the terms like an RPC node. And there's so much good community content out there. There's free content, there's paid content. So yeah, first steps, get your web basics there. Second steps, understand the lingo. And third steps, start building like a Tor smart contract, something like Crypto Zombies. It's one of my favorite tutorials where you build a zombie game in a smart contract and you end up connecting it in a web application. I came with around 6 years of experience as a web developer, and I did this. And 2 weeks later, I was writing DeFi protocols. So, and this is not to say that I'm like better or quick. It's just a protocol. The tutorial is really good, so you'll get started coding quickly. If and the other way to just get started, I would say, is just don't spend too much time in learning mode. Just get going and try to create something. There's a lot of resources online. So just reading too much tutorials nonstop is going to give you a writer's block on your code. So just trying to maybe write your first NFT, for example, like just trying to write your first thing in your first project in Web3 is going to open a lot of doors. And I'm talking from a Web2 developer's perspective. So of course, if you're not a developer, learn to code first. Yeah, just don't be afraid of going with many communities. There's so many clubs, DAOs, exactly what you're like the Web3 club you're doing. This is a good way to just know people and connect because there's no gatekeeping. Well, people will gatekeep, but much less than in other industries. So if you're new, so many people will be happy to, okay, join a project with me, code with me, and let's make a small dApp together. I have a lot of friends who do that.
All right, thank you very much, Gui. I wouldn't want to waste your time anymore. But you're still talking about like getting started, helping devs get started. Zach, can you quickly talk about the dev program the Web Training like Dev program, and probably paste the link for the developers in our community interested. I know the official announcement hasn't gone out yet. It's still in my drafts. Well, yeah, that's the benefit of joining this dialogues. Yeah, you get first-hand information. So Zach, just spend the next 2 minutes talking about the dev program so we can round up.
All right. So we're going to be having a short um program for those that already have like substantial knowledge in Web2, just get them started with like Web3 stuff. So we just cover the basics, and then we're going to do a lot of interesting stuff. We're going to talk about like the basic concept about the blockchain, and then we are going to build a smart contract, and then we're going to group each other in, we're going to group ourselves in like teams, and then build an exchange, something like a swap, and all that. And then for this particular cohort, we are going to focus on like Ethereum-based blockchain. The next cohort will do Solana, and then the next we are going to do Tron, because I feel like Tron is also very, very important in Africa. Because, like I said, a large number of Africans use Tron for their transaction. I really don't understand that. I really don't understand why, actually, because it's very, very annoying to use Tron. But then, a lot of Africans are using it, so we'll have to do that in the next cohort. So if you're interested in that, and join the subsequent ones. But Solana so far is known to be fast and very developer friendly, and it has a lot of libraries to use and all that. So you can also take advantage of that in the next cohort. But for this, we're going to be focused on Binance matching, Ethereum, and Base. So we can build stuff on that particular chain. So if you're interested, I think I will drop the link. So you join it. But then this is for those that have like very strong background in Web2. If you don't know HTML and CSS and JavaScript, you will really struggle with this. So we can have another code that introduce you guys. And there are a lot of clubs in Unilag that can help you get started in Web2. So we want this to be focused on getting started in Web3 and not going to the basic of teaching you what HTML is. So if you're in Web2 and then you want to really get involved in the Web3 space, believe me, you would not regret it. Just join the link. I will send the link so you can fill the form. The form would ask you a couple of questions, so as to gauge your knowledge. So we know that we have like Web2 guys there. So you can start. We would communicate with you. You can communicate, the time and the date and all that. But then start like next week or upper. So you can go ahead and do that. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So TLDR, looking to transition from Web2 development to Web3 development, make sure to click that form and fill it. You will not waste any more of your time. Let's release you. While we bring this to a close, thank you very much for joining us to chat about sufficiently decentralized user interfaces. We hope to see you around some other time, probably even on a more regular basis, probably even as a teacher in our dev training program. Yeah. So someone from the team will be in constant communication with you. Thank you very much, Gui. Thank you everyone else for showing up. To the next quarter, we will have the third episode of Web3U Dialogues. See you guys, and sorry for taking an extra. No, wasting is the wrong term, for taking an extra 26 minutes of your time. Right. So cheers, guys. Much love. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye, guys. Thanks for joining.